Hey everybody, welcome to Canadian music in the 80s and 90s and more. Thanks for watching if you are. And if you are watching, please subscribe, say you like it. It's my pleasure to be joined by Blair Packham again. Thanks for coming back, Blair.
Hi, Alan. How are you?
Good, it's good to see you. We got something to talk about today.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right.
you have a new album out, and I've been listening to it for the past couple of days, and it's great. Um, I
Thank you.
oh, your songwriting definitely. You're one of the best songwriters I think I've ever heard.
Wow. Okay. Thank you very much.
Well, I love your you, I love your lyrics. I love the way you come up with song ideas lyrically. And then when I listened to it this morning, I really liked the sound you got out of it.
Oh, thanks. It was I did it mostly, not entirely, but mostly in my home. And I was an engineer for years. I was a recording engineer full time for years, and I learned under the great Doug McClement. He was my boss, and he's a
Hmm.
renowned recording engineer, and he taught me everything I know. So it's heartening to hear that that I was able to make a recording in what is essentially a second bedroom in my house,
Yeah,
into something that sounds like a record.
it's amazing because I don't think you could have done that 30 years ago, could you?
Oh, no, 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 no question. It's technology. It's also, I think, experience too. Yeah, it's a different world that we live in now. When I worked at Comfort Sound in Toronto, it was there were no options for people to record at home. There weren't even Porta studios at the time.
Oh,
Porta
really?
studios being those cassette multi-track cassette recorders, those didn't exist.
Wow. Like even you couldn't have even done that with a mobile unit, I guess, too, right?
Well, you could have done it with a mobile unit, and that's what Comfort Sound had. We had
Yeah.
a cube van, and it was I shouldn't say we, it was Doug's cube van, but I worked for him, and
Yeah.
we recorded everybody. Stevie Ray Vaughan is the one that I always say,
Yeah.
but really everybody, Canadian acts, the Headpins, Brian Adams, over and over again. So, but even then, it's a live recording, and so what I was
Right.
trying to go for in this case was a studio sounding recording and I for four of the songs I did work in an actual studio. Um, but I did all the finishing of the stuff at home, the mixing and any overdubs and so forth. And the rest of the songs were all done in my home with a drummer playing on in his home, Mark Mariach,
Okay.
playing in his home studio and doing it remotely. And I think it worked out pretty good.
Yeah, I was reading that you've had this kind of on the burner for a while. Like it
Yeah.
took you years to complete, and I was reading like the dates that you wrote some of these songs, like going back to like 2017. Um, I think I even saw one 2013,
Oh no, there's
2016.
a couple from the '90s. Like
Yeah,
there's a song called "Funny How" and then another song called "Houston, We Have a Problem." And I wrote both of those with a guy named Nisha Sheridan, who uh, who was in Toronto at the time, but he lives in Nashville and has lived in Nashville for decades now. So both of those songs have a country sort of feel to them because that's where we were leaning at the time. But I wrote those songs years ago, and I just thought those are good songs, and especially one of them, "Funny How," was fiction. It's about a marriage breakup, and I'd never played it because my marriage was intact, and
right.
then when my marriage fell apart in 2007, it started. At that point, I thought, I guess I can play that song now.
Yeah.
And then I looked up that other song, and it's funny, my ex-wife, who we're still friends, still close. I love her. I'm going to her birthday party today. Arlene Bishop is her name, and that song "Houston, We Have a Problem," she said that song always made her cry, and I thought, well, if that, that's a song doing its job, not
Right.
to make you cry, but to make you feel something.
Well, that's
And
what music's all about, right? So,
yeah, and I
yeah.
thought, well, if it makes Arlene feel something, then maybe it'll make somebody else feel something, and it's a good song, and I recorded it. It was actually to replace another song. It was to replace the recording that I had started of "All Through the Night" by Jules Shear, that Cindy
Yeah,
Lauper. So
I've
we
heard you
loved.
play that live, actually.
Yeah, yeah, and I loved it, but then I didn't want to go through the hassle of getting permission to record it and stuff, and so I thought, well, I'll do one that I wrote with Nisha.
That's awesome. So you wrote them, they've been scattered around when you wrote them. When did you record them? Did you record all these recently?
Relatively recently, like in my at my advanced age, recent is a relative thing. So
Yeah.
I actually finished this record a year ago,
Okay.
um, and I had it mastered, and then sat on it for a year. And during that year, all kinds of I had another breakup, and other stuff happened. There were like life challenges, and also I kept thinking in 2025, how do you put out a record? How does
Yeah.
that, in the olden days when I started, you'd make demos and you try and get a record deal,
Yeah.
and the record company would hopefully sign you, which, and I had that experience, so, and it was great. But then I thought, well, I'm just gonna, really almost like about 3 weeks ago, I thought, what am I doing sitting on this record? I'm already started I'm about 7 songs into a new record at this point, and I thought I better get this one out there before I
Yeah.
finish the new one. So yeah, so I really I just decided I would put it out myself, and that's what I'm doing. So it's
Awesome. I'm always excited when people like you put out new stuff. Like I love listening to it and just hearing how you've progressed over the years. It's amazing.
Well, God bless you. Thank you. I we need more people like you. So thank you. Yeah, it officially is released on the 4th of March, on Spotify and Apple Music and et cetera, all the streaming services. But it's out now on Bandcamp and
Okay. Yeah.
bandcamp.com. And I've sold a bunch of them already. It's great, and and people there've been a lot of plays.
Yeah.
The stats look good. I'm thrilled. I actually didn't think anybody really cared, but so far so good.
Um, will there be a physical copy, like a vinyl release and a CD release as well, or
There'll only be a physical copy if there's enough interest, and it's hard to
okay.
say right now. Vinyl, each copy costs a lot of money for the
Yeah.
artist to do. I'm playing live, but I'm not touring. So
Okay.
if somebody wants to have like a physical copy as a souvenir kind of thing, it's an expensive. They're heavy to carry around. There's all kinds of
Sure.
practical reasons to not do it. I'd love to. I have a turntable. I listen to vinyl.
Yeah.
I'd love to have one of my own records on vinyl that isn't a Jitters record,
Yeah.
because I haven't done vinyl for my other releases, and I'd love to, but it costs a fair amount. You have to sell them for $30, minimum, in order to make
Yeah.
back some of your money. And I've got a house, I've got a basement full of CDs of my previous releases. So I'm not full of, but a few hundred of each title, and they're not selling because nobody's buying CDs.
Yeah.
So I'd hate to have a couple of boxes of vinyl sitting around. I don't know. I don't want to sound defeatist, but if I were a young touring band, yeah, I'd definitely do vinyl, but it's a different thing for me.
Well, it's bizarre because I don't even think cars come with CD players anymore.
Oh no,
Um,
they haven't for years. They haven't for
yeah.
years. Yeah.
I
So,
actually have a Discman hooked up to the aux in my car so I can
oh,
actually
nice.
listen to a CD in the
Yeah,
car
that's
because
great.
I
Yeah, I
don't
mean
know.
I got a 2014 Kia Soul. I have a new car now, but I remember I got that used Kia Soul in 2017, and it didn't have a CD player, and I was shocked. I
Yeah.
thought, what? How can you not have a CD player? But even by 2014, they were very rare. So yeah, the only way I listen to music now is on Apple Music or on Spotify in the car, and I try and avoid Spotify because of the way they pay artists so poorly. But it's a necessary evil. Um,
Sure.
and Apple Music isn't much better. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. It's twice as good. They pay twice as much, and it's still not very good.
No, no, it's
But
like
yeah.
pennies or something, isn't it? Like
Oh
I
no,
don't.
it's not even pennies. I mean, it's Spotify is something like 0.0034 cents per play.
Oh, really?
So if
Wow.
you have a million plays on Spotify, you will, like, all of the rights owners will earn $3,400. And when I say all of the rights holders, I mean the person who owns the master, the person who owns the publishing, the person who wrote the song, and the artist. So there's four rights holders. Um, but in the case of an indie record, it would all be me.
Yeah.
But still, it's for a
It's not
million
for
plays, it's $3,400 for and my record costs more than that to make. So
it
you
hardly
know,
seems right. I don't know. It just doesn't seem
well,
right.
yeah, that was the reason I was wrestling with it for so long
Yeah.
because it seemed like, well, I'm not going to make back the money I'm spending, so it just becomes an expensive hobby. It happens to be a hobby that I think I'm pretty good at,
Yeah.
and I feel I have something to say, but it's not, you can't do it to add to your living. It's sort of, I rationalize it by thinking it's my art,
Yeah.
and, and I have to do it.
Yeah.
Like I just have to. And I, as I say, I'm really feeling satisfied that having released it, I'm really happy I'm getting a good reaction. So it vindicates that feeling. Like it's nice to know that people
Yeah.
are listening and paying attention.
Well, I listened to it on this Bandcamp forum. Do you get a better deal out of that by posting it
Yeah.
there?
Bandcamp is the best, actually. Bandcamp is the best for artists. You get 80% of sales, which is
Okay.
better than any record company ever did.
Yeah.
With record companies, a really good deal, and I'm talking in the classic, the 70s and 80s, a really great deal. You get about 15% of the retail price, and that would be the artist who would then have to pay a manager out of that 15%, and they'd pay the
Sure.
producer out of that 15%. Producer usually got 3 points, which means that the band and the manager would split 12 points on a record that was
Okay.
selling for at that time maybe anywhere from $8 to $20 with CD when CDs came out. But anyway, don't want to go in too much into the weeds with that stuff. But
Right.
it was different, and Bandcamp is great because you maintain your own site, your own info, your own bio, your own pictures. You do
Right.
all that stuff yourself, and that's fine because you control all that stuff and you promote it yourself, which again is fine. But you also keep 80% of the profits. So yeah, so I'm really happy with Bandcamp.
No, it's great that there's alternatives out there as well. Like, I mean, you can use all of that. Like, you can use Spotify, you can use Apple Music, but you have something else to go to as well. I think that's great, especially
Yeah,
one that helps the artist out more.
and Spotify is just a stream. So if you whereas Bandcamp, you download the tracks
Oh,
and
right.
you have them on your device, and you can, I suppose you could form your own record company and sell them. But
Yeah.
but I wish you luck with that endeavor if you choose to do that.
You've got some great musicians backing you up on these recordings. Like the one I really like, Cambridge Avenue. And I'm like, that definitely has an odd sound to it. And when I looked at the lineup, of course, there's Craig Northey in there with his
Yeah,
stamp on it. You've got Natalie playing violin, who I've seen play with you live at Sauce before,
yeah.
and you play with quite a bit from
Yeah, Natalie Wong. She's a classical performer, but she's a really great improviser, which isn't common to classical performers.
right,
Um, some classical artists are able to play music only when it's put in front of them on sheet music.
right.
But she's not like that, and she has a fantastic ear. She's a terrific singer as well. So yeah, so she sang and played on the record. She's all over it. Craig Northey from The Odds, like one of my best friends. I love him, and I love what he brings to my songs. And he's been on every one of my records. And in fact, The Odds were my backup band on my second
That's
solo
right.
post Jitters record, Could Have Been King. And that was a great experience going to Vancouver and having them, learn my songs and play behind me in the studio and so forth was great. They're one of my favorite bands ever. I just think they're great. And Craig does all the vocals, and I asked him to sing on it, but he did guitars as well. So he yeah, he brought his own thing to it as he always does.
The first couple of songs off it really had a kind of a Celtic kick to it. Like it had like not violin, fiddle
Yeah,
sound on
that's
some of
right.
them, which is something that I've I found quite kind of refreshing, especially living here in the Maritimes. It seems to have had a bit of an influence on you. Was that purposely done, or was it just something that kind of happened?
Yeah, not so much Celtic, but the rootsy or earthy kind of thing.
Yeah,
That was the purpose. That was because I had had this thought years ago. See, I only started playing solo in around, when I say solo, I mean with an acoustic guitar. I really started doing that regularly around 2000 and around 2000, I guess. So, and then even then I didn't do it much. Now it sounds like a long time ago to a young man like you,
yeah,
but it's like I had had, 20 years before that of playing with rock bands, and then loud guitars and loud drums and so forth. And so to play acoustically, I really had to learn how to do that, and I didn't do it that often for a while till really the end of the 2000s.
yeah,
And I had to learn how to do it, and it occurred to me along the way somewhere that people, if it, like at that point I was still selling CDs. People would still
yeah,
buy CDs from me, and it occurred to me my CDs don't sound anything like me playing an acoustic guitar because they're
right,
produced, they've got drums and bass and keyboards and other sounds and lots of vocals and so forth. And I thought I should make a record that sounds more like me
yeah,
now. And then I formed a band, a trio. I had a bass player playing with me, an upright bass player named Jim Nielsen,
hmm,
and he was, my dear friend. And he and I played together. And then we met a guy who didn't play drums, but he was a cool guy and fun and smart. And I said, yeah, have you ever thought of playing drums? And and he said, no, I never have. And I said, what if I got you some drums and we tried it out just to see? So I had some drums, and we got together, and he played bass drum on a suitcase, and he had a real
hmm,
snare drum, and he had a bunch of like shakers and stuff like that to play, and he has a great sense of rhythm. His name is Andy Humphrey.
hmm,
And so we played around a lot, especially during the pandemic.
yeah,
And I felt like at that point, we should make a record that sounds like that. But I also really wanted it to have real drums on it, not a suitcase. And then I thought, I
right,
asked Andy, would you mind if you were playing percussion and singing, but not playing the actual drums? And he said he didn't mind. So I started making that record, sending out tracks for Mark Mariash to play drums on. And so, yeah, the problem is about midway through the recording of that, we had a falling out,
oh, okay,
I'm still sad about. I saw Andy yesterday, actually. It was really nice to see him, but we there were arguments about control of the band,
yeah,
and I thought, control this? Like, like, why worry about controlling? Like, this is such a modest like
yeah,
endeavor. But they both felt really strongly about the ideas they had, and I felt strongly about mine, and so we decided to not continue.
right,
And that contributed as well to taking so long to put the record out, because I had this band that I was very proud of, and we were really good, and we were funny and charming and cool, and lots of harmonies and stuff. And it just sounded, it was a
yeah,
fun experience to see us play. And then, like, overnight, gone. And so then I thought, well, what do I do with this record that I started with them? And it took me all that time to get around to putting it out. So yeah. So in answer to your question, I just wanted a record that sounded more like what I was actually doing live. And still, it does. Natalie still plays with me.
hmm,
Adam Fox is playing bass. Adam Fox was with a band. Well, he's been with a bunch of great bands, but he was with a punk band called Pig Farm,
okay.
and he plays bass and sings, and David Steinberg plays drums, and so we have a cool little thing going for sure, and it sounds like the record. So I achieved that goal eventually.
Now you said you don't tour necessarily, but you will play shows here and there like you usually do.
Yeah,
Um, so you'll probably play a lot of these live, or have you played this stuff live before, seeing how old some of the songs are?
yeah, I played all these songs, and I continue to play them. I play all of them, some more than others, more regularly.
Right.
Cambridge Avenue, which you mentioned, I played a few times, like maybe, I don't know, I've played a dozen or more times, and it's probably one of the least played ones because it's uh I don't know. It's more poppy, I guess, than the
Yeah.
more acoustic one. So, more significant other. I'm looking for a more significant other
Mhm.
is the most recent one on the record, and we played that a bunch of times. And yeah, so we do these songs. Um, just a note, I will tour if somebody wants me. I'll tour.
Yeah.
So if somebody in Australia wants me, I'll go. It's not a matter of not being able to or not wanting to. I'm ready and able. So I do play around Ontario.
Yeah. But
Uh,
not like a scheduled tour kind of thing where it's like
yeah,
you block out a whole 2 months to go travel across the country. But if
no,
somebody in, say, here in Charlottetown said, "Do you want to come to the trail side and play a show?" and gave you the right number, you'd come and do it.
oh for sure. And in fact, if I actually am doing some John Prine dates. I should look into that. You know what? I'm doing two shows in PEI, and you
Oh,
should come.
I
But
you can guarantee I'll be there.
they're not. It's not my music. It's John the music of John Prine.
Oh yeah,
And
that'd be hard to listen to.
yeah, yeah. So I'll be doing that. I should book some shows around that if I can, depending on how those shows are put together. That's not till the spring, like a year from now. Oh
Okay,
wait, you know what? I'm going to check my calendar right now. This is
excellent. Oh,
interactive interviewing. I'm going to check right now and see
just to
because I
see
might be wrong
just to
about
see
that.
you here on PEI would be awesome.
Yeah, well, and I played there a bunch of times over the years, so it would be great to return.
Yeah,
Hold on. Yeah, in it's October actually. It looks like it is the 25th and 26th of October. I will be in Georgetown on the 25th and in Summerside on the 26th. So I should see if the trail side has an open night on the 27th.
yeah, for sure. That'd be great to see you out here.
Yeah.
Summerside's doable. Georgetown's a little far, but I'd still make the trek out to see you.
Oh, that's
Um,
nice. The John Prine show is a great show. And
oh,
John Prine was one of my very earliest influences. You know, there was sort of the Beatles and Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee, and then John Prine, and really in that order when I was like 12 and 13 years old.
he's
So
influenced so many, hasn't he? Like,
yeah,
I mean, he probably never got rich from performing, but he's influenced so many writers, so many performers,
yeah,
like that, like from every country. I think I don't think you can deny how much he's influenced people over the years.
really brilliant songwriter, and I aspire to write songs like that. And of course, that's a high, that's a tall order.
Yeah,
But the quality that I loved so much about what he did was the the ability to make you sort of laugh or chuckle and make you sort of cry or feel sad in the same song,
right.
sometimes in the same line.
Yeah,
And
just he was a good wordsmith too, wasn't he?
yeah, yeah.
He really was, and that's what you seem to have followed too.
Well, thanks. I aim for that. It's one reason why it takes me so long to write songs because I really want it to be special. I don't want to write
Yeah,
yeah baby baby yeah baby baby. Not
yeah,
that that can really work. And like I don't want to put that down. It's just
right.
not it doesn't appeal to me personally. It appeals to me as a listener very often. Like
Yeah,
I don't know, like even a great song, Let's Dance, put
yeah,
on your red shoes and dance the blues. It's just like it's pretty basic and pretty simple and I love it. But I
yeah.
probably wouldn't write that myself. Maybe that's
Sure.
what keeps me from mainstream success. I don't know.
Maybe I don't know. Do you mind if I touch on some other stuff you did
Not a bit.
last
No, go please go ahead.
last time I talked to you? You were just about to do a little reunion with the Jitters. How did
Yeah,
that go?
it was fantastic. It was really great. I mean, I know I'm not a reliable narrator, meaning that of course I'm going to say it was great, but really,
Yeah,
I'm telling you, it was great. like,
yeah,
like we had a great night. It was at Hughes Room, the new Hughes Room in Toronto, which
hmm,
is an old church, and
yeah,
we worried that we were going to be too loud for the church
yeah,
because big, boomy, open room.
sure,
But we tamed our volume a little bit, but man, it was great. We played well. The crowd loved it. It was not a sellout. It was pretty close though. It was a full house,
yeah,
and the sound person Ann Keeler, she's a genius at the live soundboard, and she was able to make like everybody came up to me and said, "Oh my God, you guys sounded like a record." you know,
Yeah.
and it was great. It was but a record that was sort of being smartass and joking with the crowd. We had Paul Greenberg join us. Paul Greenberg uh, appears on the Jitters' first album cover.
Oh, the
Um,
keyboard player.
the
Yeah.
keyboard player. He doesn't play a note.
Yeah.
And there's at Hughes Room because it's too heavy to move off the stage. There's a big Hammond organ that just sits in the corner on the stage. So we took the cover off, and I invited Paul up to reenact the first video for Last of the Red Fools. And he's a
That's
comedy
awesome.
writer, and he's a comedy performer, and he's really funny. And so he just came up, and just the way he was, pretending to play the keyboard while he was standing there was hilarious. I kept
Yeah.
cracking up, and yeah, it was so good, and lots of people who I haven't seen in a long time were in the audience, like Jitters fans and friends, and we were together for 10 years, so we made a lot of friends, probably some enemies as well. But there are lots of people I haven't seen in 30 years.
Wow, that's
And uh,
great.
and I'm not kidding. Some people brought their kids, and that
Really? Wow.
that was weird. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. Their kids are in their 40s now, so or the 30s anyway.
Yeah.
And so it was, yeah, it was really fun, really good.
I mean, the music's not that strange to people. Some people might not know it to you that did it, but they know the songs.
Well,
Like,
that's actually what I find. What I found is over the last 5 or 10 years, people say to me, like, they'll say, I'll say, yeah, I was in a band in the 80s. And I've learned not to say I was in a band called the Jitters, because
yeah,
now people are like, yeah, no, sorry, don't know that. They don't remember the name,
yeah,
which is fine. But if they hear this song, they're like, oh, that was you guys,
yeah, yeah.
Um, so there's that, and also sometimes they don't know the song at all as well. And time moves on. It's just the way it goes. But there are people who still remember us, and I think what we did by playing at Hughes Room that night in November was we kind of proved that we could still rock,
Yeah.
and
No, that's yeah,
that we're a good band. Like, it wasn't just a matter of being put together by a record label, because we weren't. You
yeah.
know, we were signed by a record label, but we had already existed at that point for 5.5 years. So
Okay.
we were already a really good band. Some would argue, by the way, that we were a better band before we got signed to a record label. And I'm not sure I would disagree.
Yeah.
So we certainly had a number of heydays throughout the 80s.
It's funny, I got that reaction. I interviewed mid-year again
Oh yeah,
about a week ago, and a lot of people don't realize how important he was to the music industry.
oh yeah,
Like they don't know his name, but they
yeah,
know the music, and of course the biggest thing he did was Band-Aid.
yeah.
He produced and co-wrote that. So, but I mean, yeah, he's a fantastic man to talk to, and what a career he's had, like just unbelievable.
Yeah. And what's that song? What's the song he did a cover of? It's a Bowie song.
I'm not too sure.
Oh my, it's a fantastic cover, and it got used in a video game. I can't remember what it is, but anyway, it was fantastic. And so he's done all kinds of interesting things over the
The
years.
other thing is, I'm still trying to nail down an interview with a friend of yours named Rik Emmett.
Oh yeah. I,
And his publisher sent me this.
very nice. Yes,
I'm half in the middle of reading it. It's pretty awesome. I mean, what else would it be? It's about guitars.
that's
What
right.
else? What else would he write a book about? But there's a CD coming with that, and
Yes.
you are in this book and on the CD as well.
There's a
Um,
the chapter of that book I wrote, in fact.
yeah,
It's at the back, and it's
yeah,
about the technical notes of recording. So it's not very if you're a tech head, it would be interesting. But but yeah, I recorded the audio book with Rick,
yeah.
and I recorded the audio for the album. So yeah, yeah, Rick and I worked together a lot on that, and I love it, and I love him. He's a he's a very interesting cat, and often when people say that, when they say somebody's interesting, they mean it as a sort of a slight uh, mm, criticism or something. I don't mean that at all. I just mean
Yeah,
he's truly an interesting guy.
yeah,
He's so engaged with the world, and his brain works so fast and at a deep level. And yeah, and he's of course a great guitar player and composer.
Would you guys do it? Are you guys gonna do maybe any promotions together for the book and the CD when it comes out? Or
I don't know. I don't think he needs me.
yeah,
So if he asked me, I'd be happy to, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't need me. He is doing promo, so I'll try and make that happen if I can, if I have any influence on him for
yeah,
you, because I know you guys would have a great conversation, and he's a great interview.
yeah. Like
Uh,
I'm a small cookie here, and but I just do
yeah,
it for
I,
fun. But I would be absolutely honored to speak to someone like him. I mean, especially since I grew up in Mississauga, and they were the biggest band that come out of Mississauga, right? So, um,
yeah, they were. Yeah, we know they were amazing. Yeah, no. Well, I'll see. I'll actually, I have to talk to Rik in the next couple of days anyway. I'll mention it to him directly rather than sometimes going through a publicist, although they might think, well, I'm not sure about that, but then the artist might have a different feeling.
right. Oh, yeah, I've done that. I've gone every which way possible to get a hold of people to interview them, and
Yeah.
some are not very nice about it. But then I realize, I got to realize what's real. There's tons of people like me doing stuff like this. If they did every single one, they'd be busy all day.
Yeah, but on the other hand, the people who are doing it out of love, like you, who are doing it because you love the music,
Yeah,
that's more meaningful than somebody who's doing it as a job, in my opinion. Somebody
yeah,
who does it as a job may love the music, but they may also just have a schedule to fill.
yeah.
And somebody like you is going to get to the meat of the matter, I think, a little more directly and talk about the music more, which is better.
Well, that's what it's all about. And like I said, my real focus lately has been the fact that you guys are still making music today.
Yeah.
And I really like to focus on your new stuff as much as the old stuff because I think you guys are making just as solid music today as you
Oh,
ever did.
I feel like, I mean, in terms of lyrics, I feel I'm writing way better lyrics than I did in the Jitters.
Yeah,
Not that they were bad necessarily, but they were simpler and more they were more fiction.
yeah,
Like Last of the Red Hot Fools is not based on a real experience. It's just a thought. It's just I
yeah,
like that, you know. I liked the idea of, instead of Last of the Red Hot Lovers, switching it up and making it Last of the Red Hot Fools.
yeah,
And then I came up with the chorus for that song while I was vacuuming. I was house sitting at somebody's, and I think I'd spilled something, so I was vacuuming, and thought. And that song was originally, Bob Ezrin was working with the Jitters at the time, and he had said that Cyndi Lauper was looking for songs, and so I had this idea, Last of the Red Hot Fools, and I thought, how would that go? And I started vacuuming, and I've been a fool, and, sort of the rhythm of the vacuum going back and forth, and
yeah,
but it wasn't a heartfelt personal song for me.
right.
The Jitters had those, but more like a handful of them. Whereas every song on this record of mine, this new one on The Impossible Dream, is heartfelt and true to life for me.
Yeah. The song that always hit close to me was Bridges Burning.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
because at the time there was a part of my life that was coming to an end, like I was finishing high school.
right,
And that part where you said you'd never go there again. It's like, and it's true. There's people I literally have not seen since I left high school. And
right.
it's
Well, but the other thing about that too, though, that song is, it takes that, there's the cliche, burning bridges, right?
right.
And it's always seen as a bad thing. Oh, Alan, when you had an argument with that guy, you really burned that bridge, and it's seen as a bad thing. That song tries to turn it into a good thing, in the sense, at least a bittersweet thing.
Yeah.
In that we'll never have to go back there again. Not only will we never go there again, which is just a given, but we don't have to if we don't want to.
Yeah.
That's what the verses are about. They can stop trying to break us down and wound our hard-won pride. We
Right.
can't make them believe in what we feel deep down inside. And so it's about, what? I'm moving on. That's what it's really about. But it's
Yeah.
bittersweet.
Yeah.
So it's yeah. So that would be one of the deeper songs. But a lot of the stuff with the Jitters was just sort of like, there's a boy and a girl and they're having an argument,
Yeah,
and we'll write that in a song. And
yeah,
whereas the stuff now, it's stuff that I've lived, it's
yeah.
stuff that I've felt, it's stuff that I've observed, and
It's
that's
growth. It's growth.
yeah. And plus, I try and write about it in a way that makes it more interesting than maybe hopefully more interesting than like a diary entry.
Yeah, well, I wasn't so sure that song got to me more about it wasn't about burning bridges so much. It was just about changes in life, you know.
Change. Yeah, exactly.
You
Moving on.
spend 4 years or 5 years with the same people over and over again. You never think you're gonna be apart from them. And then, high school ends and you move on to the next step of your life, and you're like, I don't see those people around in my life anymore. They're just not there.
They're just
And
gone.
they're just
Um,
gone. And it's not from something, you did or they did. It's just moving
no,
on with
everybody.
life.
Yeah. Unless you're like me and you end up going to get your cataracts worked on, and the surgeon is somebody you went to high school with,
Yeah.
and that's what happened. In fact, that doctor's whole practice, which is only about 3 or 4 blocks away from my house, they all went to my high school, and I knew
Yeah.
them all in high school. I knew them all. So, and the doctor said, uh, he said, so what do you do now after we talked about high school? And I said, well, I make music. And he said, anything I know? And I said, maybe, I don't know. You can find me online,
Yeah.
because I'm not going to sit in the doctor's chair and then get up and start dancing and singing Last of the Red Hot Fools.
Yeah.
And so then when I go for the eye surgery about a month later, um, I get wheeled into the operating room, and there's the doctor, the surgeon, and he says, hey, how are you, and so forth. And then he goes, do you mind if we listen to your music while we're doing this? He said, I checked you out online. I'm a big fan. And, so he had made a playlist of songs of various eras of my
Yeah.
music, and played it. We only got through 4 or 5 songs because it's a very quick operation, but
Yeah.
and I was conscious during the whole time. So
Yeah.
I'm listening to my own music while he's poking around in my eye.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was nice. It was really nice. I liked it. It was
Yeah.
flattering, of course, but I
That
also was,
somebody took the time to look it up, right?
yeah, and I was
Yeah.
lying, remembering the experience of recording it. Like the one song had Ron Sexsmith singing a harmony on it, and another song I did completely in my second bedroom, and another one was in this nice big studio with a bunch of great players.
Yeah.
Gary Bright played on my first album, and he's been playing with Brian Adams for 30 years now.
Oh,
And
wow. Yeah.
so, just remembering these things. And Pat Stewart played drums on every record until this one.
Now he's with Brian Adams
He's
again.
yeah, yeah, and he was with Brian Adams before, and then he was with the Odds, and now he's back with Brian. So, just thinking these thoughts as and also thinking, don't slip.
Yeah. Don't slip. Please focus on my
Yeah,
eyes.
yeah,
Yeah.
don't start dancing.
Yeah. No, I'm still amazed at how much Craig Northey throws up. I was interviewing Jeff Kelly the other day from Spirit of the West. He's touring with the Irish Rovers.
Yes, right.
And he's very good friends with the Odds as well. They've grown up together, and he's
Yeah,
amazing at what how he said he went to the Junos with Craig a few years ago, and Craig knows everybody. He knows every person that was there. It's like I don't.
yeah,
So I mean, and he's probably worked with half of them too. So
yeah. And we did some TV stuff together as well, some TV music. He did. He scored the Kids in the Hall reboot
yep,
that was on, I guess, a year and a half ago, or whatever. And he had
corner
me.
gas.
Yes, but on the Kids in the Hall, he hired me to produce some
Oh,
vocals and on another series he scored, which is called Tall Boys.
mhm.
So he does a lot of TV stuff, and when it makes sense, he's had me work on that stuff, and it's a real pleasure because he's very, very creative and really funny, even in that role.
And he can do anything by the sounds of it. So
Yep, yep, great guitar player, and of course he's playing with Stephen Page in the Stephen Page
yep.
trio, and in the Trans Canada Highwaymen.
I know they're coming to Newfoundland. I don't think they're coming here to PEI, but I hope they do.
Yeah, I think they may have just left Newfoundland like 2 days ago. So they I think they just finished that leg of the tour. But yeah, I've seen them. They're great. I know all those guys, of course. I've known
Yeah.
Moberg probably the longest.
Well, he's a very good producer as well, like of other bands. Like
Yeah,
he was worked with
yeah.
a band that I know really well called the James Clark Institute. He
I was
produces
just
all
gonna say
their
the James
records.
Clark. Yeah,
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 he produces all their records, and they're amazing. I love that band, and Mo's put a really good stamp on their music too. So,
yeah, yeah.
um,
They're also a funny band without and clever lyrics without being a joke. Like I
yeah,
like fun bands that are not just pure novelty. Bare Naked Ladies come to mind.
yeah,
They're funny, but man, can they play and write, and the lyrics are heartfelt, and
yeah,
I never thought of them as a joke band. I know some
no,
people did, and I think they're wrong. I think they're not getting past the surface. You know,
yeah,
there are people who believe that humor and music don't shouldn't mix, and
hmm,
my record company said that to me in 1990 when I wanted to have a song that was had some funny lyrics in it, and the president, who has passed away since, he said very seriously, Blair, music and humor don't mix. And then Gordon by Bare Naked Ladies came out, and it's like a sensation. And I'm
yeah,
thinking, no, I think music and humor do mix,
yeah.
actually.
Well, the guy I would bring up is, and a lot of people made jokes of him, was Stompin' Tom Connors,
Oh yeah, yeah,
because he wrote some songs that were not humorous and were quite
absolutely.
like
Yeah,
he was a very deeper songwriter than people gave him credit for.
yeah, I agree.
Like, yeah, he wrote some humorous songs, I'll give him that, and he was good at it, but he wrote some songs like he wrote some songs that educated us on Canadian history. Like
That's right.
some of the
Yeah.
songs he's written, he wrote about the Burrard Street Bridge in Vancouver when it was built. Like that's a pretty serious topic. He wrote about Martin Hartwell.
Yeah.
Like
No, no,
that's a
no.
touchy subject. Like,
Even just his songs about towns in southern Ontario, like that, it introduced, or towns in Canada,
yeah,
it introduced those places to a whole audience that otherwise wouldn't even be aware of them. No, no, he was the real deal, obviously, and funny at the same time. It's like John Prine, there's humor in those songs, but they're not jokes.
no, definitely
and
not.
and and I think that people who see the world in more black and white terms might think, well, it's funny, therefore it's a joke, and they miss the depth,
Yeah,
and I think that's too bad.
yeah, and we could sure use Tom's influence these days, couldn't we?
Oh yeah, oh for sure.
I think we definitely need a resurgence of Tom's music right about now.
Yep,
Uh, um,
yep, I agree.
anyway, man, I can't thank you for joining me again. I'm glad we got to talk about your new stuff because it's fabulous. If anyone's watching this, please give it a check out. And it's just
Yeah, it's
great
thank
stuff.
you. I'll give the web address, or for Bandcamp anyway. It's my name, Blair Packham, no
Hmm.
space, blairpackham.bandcamp.com. Easy to get to, easy to find.
I'll put the link in the description on the YouTube.
Great. Okay,
So
fantastic.
and that too, and for Rik too, I'll put the Rik Emmett book on there too if it helps
Yeah,
because you
yeah.
were in that too, involved in that. But yeah, I put as many things in there as I can,
Oh,
um, so everyone can link to it. So, but
yes.
yeah,
Send me the link so I can post it on my Facebook, etc., on my social media.
oh, absolutely. Well, thanks. I appreciate you joining me when you do. It's just and it's always. I mean, I do it anyway, but it's always fun when we have something to talk about too. Something
Absolutely,
to.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, great.
Well,
Anyway.
thank you, Alan. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. I really appreciate your interest and your enthusiasm.
Oh, anytime, my friend. Anytime. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye.